So for our MSTIE placement, myself, Bailey Brear, and my partner Lloyd, we completed the 3-week placement block at Strathfield Say Primary School, and our MSTIE unit was based on energy, and we called it Essential Energy, which we used components from Primary Connections and also implemented our own spin on things. So yeah, we had an awesome time at Strathfield Say Primary. We actually had 75 students to teach with, as all three of the grade 6 classes joined together. So yeah, we'll talk about our 5E's journey now. So beginning our 5E journey with the engage phase, so it was to create interest and stimulate curiosity, raise questions, reveal student ideas and beliefs, and compare student ideas. So we began this, our first 2 sessions with gaining a bit of prior knowledge from the students. So we created a word wall, which we will use all throughout our unit, and we just added any words that they thought were relevant to the words energy and electricity. And it was awesome to see their responses, as they had a fairly good understanding of the concepts energy and electricity. For the second lesson, students were given a scenario where they had invaders from an outside source, and they left a letter for the students to investigate. Some assessments that we used in our engage phase was we introduced a science journal, which will be used all throughout, which was on their laptops, the word wall, a KWL chart, think boxes, and a science chat board.
For the explore phase, in lesson 3, students were looking at all the different types of energy identified by scientists. So students were introduced to each type of energy with examples of each energy in use. Also, students will be identifying the energy being used by the items all around the school, which they got up to explore all different types of items. In lesson 4, it was focused on measuring energy and how energy is measured, specifically to the terms watt, kilowatt, and kilowatt hour. They'll be taught the difference between the 3 terms and how they are similar, and the crucial parts of the process of understanding how energy is measured. In lesson 5, it was about the cost of appliances. So it was to look deeper into a different variety of appliances within the household and also around the school. Students had to choose 5 different appliances and look at how much money on average people spend per month and per year. And lesson 6, it was about students working in collaborative learning teams to investigate how energy from the sun can be used to heat up water inside of a soft drink can. And as a class, students had to analyse a plain soft drink can and how it can produce energy from the sun to heat up temperature of the water inside.
So now moving on to the explain phase, which consisted of lessons 7, 8, 9 and 10. This is where it became a bit more hands-on for the students, and their participation in the whole unit really started, their motivation and participation obviously really started to increase, which was a very positive sign for myself and Lloyd. So in the first session of explain, they created they were given a can to modify, and they had to use the resources that were provided, such as aluminium foil, paint, black paper, and they could also come up with their own resources to complete this investigation. This was to identify the effects of solar energy and how they could heat up water faster. Then moving on from that, they created their own water wheels, which was to investigate movement energy. So these 2 investigations/experiments were really, really good for the students to be involved with, and their assessments was so they completed a PROE sheet, which is predict, reason, observe, and explain for both of these, and they also had to create design cycles and design their own cans and water wheels.
With the elaborate phase in lesson 11, students were making modifications to their original water wheel to try and improve their performance. They'll be able to discuss features of other groups' designs and implement them into their own designs. In Lesson 12, they did a recap of the entire essential energy unit. So students will be undertaking a survey in relation to the content covered throughout the unit and also participate in a Kahoot quiz to test their understanding of the taught material. In the evaluate phase, in Lesson 13, students were planning for their presentations, so summarising in their groups what they have learnt throughout the entire science unit and give an overview of everything they had participated in. Within their group, students will either plan to create a PowerPoint or make a poster which they will present to the rest of the class. In Lesson 14, students had to summarise in their groups what they learnt in the entire science unit, so it was a continue on to what they did the previous lesson and just work out what they were doing as a class and sharing the workload when it comes to presentation time. And for the last lesson to finish off, it was actually presenting their presentations to the rest of the class. Students in their groups presented their poster, PowerPoint, or sometimes whatever they wanted to do. And the presentation included the components of all the content that was covered throughout the unit, which students were assessed using a rubric. So our jewel for the Essential Energy Science MSTIE unit was our word wall. So after every lesson, we'd always refer to the word wall, see what language we'd use throughout the entire unit, anything that the students could add up to help them throughout the unit. And it was just a good visual for all the students when they're working through the lessons and something to refer to throughout the science unit.
Finally, in reflection, some limitations we had during our MSTIE placement was sort of a time frame. We also had 75 students that we had to perform our unit to, as the three classes collaborate and do a lot of team teaching and team learning, obviously. And some recommendations is probably to just be a bit more prepared for next time. Maybe have a few more meetings with the mentor teachers prior to commencing. And yeah, but overall, I think our placement went very well, and I thoroughly enjoyed the MSTIE placement along with Lloyd.